Good evening. Welcome to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. I'm your host, Gary Morgan. With me, as always, is my good friend Jim Stamm, and we're actually in the same room.
You're actually like clean shaven and hair's done, and man.
Well, the hair's only done because I have to impress my wife a little later. It has nothing to do with you, believe me.
But that's good.
But here we are. I mean, we're in the new studio downtown.
We are.
The Avenue. Really cool. Excited. We got our faces up on the wall. It's neat, man. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and you know what? I've actually tried to get down here twice, and because of life, I didn't get here twice. But I got to say, it's done really well. And I have a feeling I know who's really responsible for that, and it might not be DK.
Are you going to sit here and tell me that Dejan didn't put all these potted plants around? You know he did. Come on. Dolly's not doing that stuff.
Yeah, well, no, but hey, it's really nice. And unfortunately, I brought my wallet, and I'm going to have to spend some money afterwards.
I already did that like on opening weekend, so I'm there. But I guess we should probably talk baseball. That's what people tuned in for. So let's start with something that I think is super interesting. You can just feel it coming, like you see the gray clouds over the storm. Like it's coming over the hillside. O'Neal Cruz is coming up real soon, and his bat is leading the story. That's why.
Yeah,
he's hitting, and I know Super 2. Yes, I know they played games and everything. I get it, but even if you want to suspend belief a little bit, he's coming up now because he's crushing the ball.
Right,
he's ready. Right.
Yeah, it's the bat.
Right. So he's going to come up here. I think he's going to play shortstop. I mean, you look at the makeup of this team. How could he not? Come on now. I mean, like,
yeah,
are you going to put him in the outfield?
Yeah, I mean, especially right this second with how everything's kind of shaping up with the roster. I'll be interested to see if they do want to give him a start here or there in the outfield at some point. I think they might.
I think they might too, and I think it might come after a particularly bad game. You know what I mean? Because I do think we're going to see that. It's not a secret. I mean, he can get to everything.
Sure.
His range is crazy. His arm's crazy. But you and I saw firsthand, and I've watched a lot of his games in AAA. There's still a tendency to double clutch a little bit on the throw. There's still a tendency to not realize his arm is so strong. He has more time than he thinks he does. And he just sails it. And with, Michael Chavis over there, I don't like the combination of a shortstop that sails balls and probably the league's shortest first baseman.
Typically, those roles would be reversed height-wise,
exactly.
which is kind of funny.
Exactly.
But yeah, and you know what? And I would just tell Cruz is, look, it didn't matter as much in the minors what he was doing in the field. It's going to start to matter more now. He's going to have to even some of these things out.
Let's think about that for a minute, because I've heard a lot of people give me comments like, oh, well, the team is just, they don't have the balls to tell him he can't play shortstop. And I don't think that's the case. I think they've told him in no uncertain terms, listen, the outfield's something we want you to try as well. It's not.
Sure.
And it's directly because you're not performing in the field here for us, right?
I don't think if people are suggesting they're not being upfront with him, I just don't buy that. I think they've told him exactly what
I'm sure they have, yeah.
Need from him, what they expect from him, and what they'd like to do with him if things work out well. I don't think that's a Ben Sherrington is many things. I don't think he's somebody that's going around telling people things that aren't true or that is going to come back to bite them.
I mean, I'd like to think that too, but I'm sure there's a little bit of mischaracterization of what they're doing or what they're looking for. And, it's all to mask what he's really mad about, which is getting sent down in the first place because he felt like he never should have.
Which is fair to a degree, of course.
To a degree, certainly. But the hour is upon us now, and he's coming up, and he's going to play shortstop. And the people that want to skip right past him to Liover Peguero, well, he's kind of got the same issue.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So no, I think he's a better defender overall. I think he profiles a little better there. I think he'll grow into his body a little better than O'Neal Cruz will at that position. But that doesn't mean that right now he's getting the job done either. So let's not act like we've got like this sure thing locked up right there. If they thought that, they wouldn't be playing Nick Gonzalez there sometimes, trying to see if somebody's going to emerge as a shortstop here.
Yeah, they're doing a little bit of trial by error.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse the pun, but no, I think what you're going to see is I just think that they maybe organizationally feel that Peguero tracks better as a major league shortstop.
I think he does too, and all the scouts say the same. But
right. I just can't wait till Twitter happens whenever Cruz gets that first error or he gets that first start in the outfield. I'm ordering a Fiore's pizza, probably my go-to, which if you want to know what it is, it's pepperoni and green peppers from there. But that's just my go-to. And I'm just going to enjoy watching that whole thing unfold on social media because it's going to be fun in the sense of people are going to lose their minds.
One way or the other.
Right.
One way or the other, they're going to lose their minds. They're either going to blame Michael Chavis for not being taller, right?
Yeah.
Or they're going to blame whoever for not scooping it out of the dirt. Or they're going to blame Brian Hayes for not moving over far enough to get the ball. He never should have had to get that. Because the caping for this kid before he even gets here is unreal.
It is going to be something to see, the mental gymnastics that people hope. And hey, hopefully we don't need to see a ton of it, that he just comes up and performs and we don't need to see it. But rest assured, there are going to be apologists out there for when he does something bad.
I mean, Jim, I think he's probably the last big call up for a minute here.
Yeah.
We should probably talk a little bit about why that is the case. And I think we'll take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to pick up there, talk about why we should maybe not be ready to cast off all these veterans right away. I mean, I think some of these guys have a place on this squad when they get back.
Yeah, that has been something on Twitter that we've seen a little bit too with all these rookies. And I think we can talk about why that might be getting the cart before the horse just a little bit.
Yeah. All right. We'll be right back. Back to the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. Jim and Gary with you, sitting in these really comfy chairs, which is really sweet. I'm kind of enjoying that.
I know. I'm going to take this back to the house. So
can't remember the last time I recorded a podcast without a cat grabbing at my leg or something. It's pretty nice. So we're going to pick up where we left off a little bit, and where I think we should leave off is really, why can't we just keep the youth movement going, Jim? Let's just bring them all up. Let's go ahead and get Mason Martin up here. How about G1 Bay? We got to get that guy up here. Kanan Smith and Jigba's hitting.
Madris.
What about Michael Burrows? I mean, let's go. We've already proven we can skip AAA, right? And that kid's killing it. So why don't we just go full youth movement? Why don't teams do that?
Well, a lot of these guys aren't going to work out. I hate to break it to people. I know that we are now intimately familiar with a lot of these minor league names and prospects because that's what we have to look forward to here. But reality is it's going to be some misses and more than a few.
Sure.
And then here's the other thing too, is because I've started to see as soon as they had this 8-4 stretch, and look, I know everybody gets, hey man, it's good to see, right? I mean, they're winning. They were beating some good teams. Young guys are producing. But you can't just start to jettison all the guys that are kind of like your baseline glue guys, because there's going to be such wild ups and downs with the rookies that the Ben Gamels of the world, if you go trade them, what are you really going to get for them?
I mean, I'm not ruling out that they'll end up trading him anyway.
Sure.
But I think there's value in having guys like that in the room. I mean, so much value in it that, I mean, what did I say right after Roberto Perez got hurt? I'm like, I hope he comes and hangs out in the dugout at least. And it turns out he is doing that. And the Pirates asked him to do that. He's happy to do that. There's a reason that you want that around, you know? And I think it's clear that, you know, the Pirates are probably playing a few IL games here, and
that most teams do. So let's be honest.
But at some point, veterans don't want to play along anymore, and that's when they have to come back, right?
Right, and that's what we're almost at right now.
Yeah, and so we're gonna get there pretty soon. Now Kevin Newman, you know, he's legit hurt, but I don't know how you can watch what we've watched and not miss the glove. I just don't know how. You can not miss the bat. I mean, I get that. But that steady sureness at shortstop, it's so important to a team. I do think that Castillo's giving us that a little bit, at least the steadiness.
Right.
But he clearly doesn't have the range Kevin Newman did. Doesn't have the arm strength. You know what I mean? So there's a little bit of a drop off there, and I also think it's moot. Once Cruz comes up here, he's gonna play. So
yeah, I would hope so. My goodness, if they bring Cruz up and he's not playing 80% of the time, then I could
see them pop him at DH and whatnot.
I think they'll do that, and I do think you're going to see him out in left field every once in a while. But you know, back to look, and when I think it depends too on what veterans we're talking about, because there's some of these veterans that they don't belong on this team anymore, in my opinion.
Yoshi.
But I mean, let's just say you got
elephant in the room.
Yoshi. I think, you know, the Yu Chang thing, that is what it is at this point. But this is what I would also caution against, that people tend to take guys like a Ben Gamel for granted. And what I would say is it's hard to be a Ben Gamel in Major League Baseball. Like that's not you have to be pretty good to be a guy that fills the kind of roles that he does. That's not easy.
I mean, think about what he teaches too. He teaches you like, okay, I may not have been anybody's top prospect. I may have done nothing more than just work harder than other people.
Right.
But look at what it added up to. In year 5 here of my career, this team wanted me and valued me back so much that they sent down somebody that they also value and want to get at bats for, because they want me up here.
Yeah, what's that tell you? He's a pro.
Yeah. The point is, though, I think we're going to see a lot of fans kind of, I think, get a little bit irrationally angry about somebody like a Cal Mitchell going back down. But reality is, there's a reason that you have these guys around. They're measuring sticks.
Yeah.
And you have to have people like that around. And if you don't, then I think you're doing yourself a disservice. You're doing the kids a disservice. You're not allowing them to absorb the messages that can be given by them. It's so important to me.
Well, I mean, hopefully these guys that are coming up, they should be in total sponge mode. And if you're just around other guys that are not used to being there as well, you know, it's a whole different level of being a professional when you get to the major leagues.
Right.
And so I just think that, you know, if you clean everybody out, great. As a fan, would it be exciting to see? Sure. But I just don't think that translates to how you got to have guys in that clubhouse that have knowledge, experience, maturity, and know how to tell a young guy who might be struggling, hey, just, you know, stick with it, calm down, do this. This is what's helped me.
I mean, that's the veteran part of the story.
Right.
And I think absolutely I agree with you. Need guys like that back here. There's a rookie side of that story too. You know, you're looking at an outfield right now. You got Jack Sawinski, you got Cal Mitchell, you got Travis Swaggerty, you got Brian Reynolds. Brian Reynolds isn't going anywhere. You know, he's going to get his at-bats. You know, we can talk a little bit more about whether he should or not in a minute here.
Right.
But like for right now, you've got 3 rookies already out there. Plus Tucupita Marcano, if you want to add him in. He's been playing left field as well, right? So you can't just bring up Kanan Smith-Njigba.
Yeah.
It doesn't even matter necessarily what he's done or how good he looks or how you can't just toss Cruz out there like it doesn't matter. You've got guys you actually need to get at bats for. You going to take at bats away from Jack Sawinski right now? I'm not. Jack Sawinski ain't coming out of my lineup. So
no, I mean, how could you right now?
Right.
He's been one of their, over the last month, he's been one of their best hitters.
Yeah. So, I mean, you actually start to almost have them collapse on each other. And competition is cool, but competition doesn't work if you can't give at bats to everybody.
Yeah.
We've seen like a player like Michael Chavis. I think it's kind of a rarity, actually. He's excelled through it. They have not given him consistent starts all season long, and he's just pushed through it.
He's made it work.
Mm-hmm.
And we are starting to see him maybe cool off a little bit, but I think that's expected. I mean, I don't think anybody, if you were expecting Michael Chavis to hit 300 and have an 850 OPS, I don't think that would be realistic. So, but he's another guy that has, he's a veteran now, even though he doesn't have a ton of at-bats in the major leagues.
Right. So I ask again, does it matter what 22-year-old Mason Martin is doing right now if you have Michael Chavis, who has contractually the same amount of control left, really?
Right.
And you kind of want to get eyes on him and let him play a little bit, right?
Sure.
Now, if you're going to bring up Martin and platoon them, okay. If that's what you want to do.
I could entertain that, actually.
I could do that if that's what you want to do. But somebody's got to go for that.
Yeah,
you're going to have to pull the plug on Tucupita Marcano or Diego Castillo if you want to bring Ji-Hwan Bae up. Mm-hmm. It's not just there's infinite spots.
Yeah, and I think what people have to do is, and we have to remind ourselves all the time of this in baseball, I mean, it's June. So I
forget it myself.
Right. So, I mean, we're talking still, you got 4 months of baseball left, essentially. And there's going to be time to get some of these guys up before the season ends. And don't create the log jam now. Let it play out a little bit. Hey, Rodolfo Castro, that played out a little bit.
Right.
He needs to go back down. He may or may not be seen as important, as important as he once did. But like this will be that time where we can let some of that play out. And then when we get to maybe like August, September, you can start talking about some of these other guys and then get that look at them then is what I think they'll do.
Right. So, I mean, I was actually kind of shocked to see that they pulled the trigger on Swaggerty already.
Right.
Being that they had just called up Cal Mitchell. Now, I understand why Travis Swaggerty's hitting.
Yeah, I mean, he was forced his way.
Sure. Which
is great.
It's awesome. And hopefully it continues up here and, he catches fire and does well. That'd be excellent. But it's not really fair to Cal Mitchell.
No.
Is it? I mean, you're really not going to get eyes on him. And you felt strongly enough to give him a 40-man spot that you didn't give him before the season. So, it's a little bit of a game here, a little bit of a dance. You can't just everybody come up.
No, and it's another sign of how in flux things can be. We get very, very caught up in rankings and where we think guys are on the depth chart. And that's going to change. I mean, and the Pirates are showing you that month to month, how they're even viewing things. So, and injuries play a part too.
Absolutely, man. So let's take another quick break here. When we come back, we'll do our call your shot.
And we're
some other stuff.
And we're going to talk about David Bednar, right? And
we're definitely going to hit on David Bednar. I mean, we're close enough to actually punch each other.
That's right.
So let's go ahead and have our fight, huh?
Yeah, right. Let's do it.
All right, and we're back on the Pirates Fan Forum here on DK Pittsburgh Sports Podcast Network. And, you know, we already talked a little bit about why some of these players aren't going to come up, but Eddie has a question, and we should let him ask it because he's been begging to come on the show for a while, and he finally got to do a Call Your Shot. And it's about our buddy Mason Martin that we just discussed a little bit.
Yeah,
but I do think it warrants a little bit more. So let's go ahead and give that a quick break.
Hey, Gary and Jim, it's producer Eddie. I am down at the shop, the DK Pittsburgh Sports shop. I got a call your shot for you guys today. So hopefully you guys get this sooner or later. And I don't want to shock you when you guys hear this for the first time when I send this to Gary. Why in the world is Mason Martin still in AAA? And why is he not in the majors? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about this. Thanks, guys.
All right, Jim. So that's Call Your Shot. It's Eddie. We're obviously not that surprised, but
I don't think he was live like satellite feed there, but you know,
yeah, he was
familiar.
He was in the second DK Pittsburgh Sports store that's open somewhere else, probably Winnipeg, I'm guessing.
The chain.
Yeah. But all right, so here we are, Mason Martin. Why isn't he coming up? And I think Michael Chavis does have something to do with it. I think he has played well there. I also think that people maybe get very caught up in seeing the highlights of Mason Martin and they miss the weeks where he doesn't hit. And he's in one of them right now. And there's another guy that requires a 40-man move, you know, and it kind of needs to be a permanent thought when you do it. I do think it'll happen. But everybody I've talked to, beat reporter wise, you know, Alex, Jason Mackey, I've talked to a bunch of guys.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has the impression that the team wants to give Yoshi another shot, even though I think they shouldn't. I'm not ever going to defend that move. I'm not ever going to be excited about that move. I'm not ever going to sit here and tell you I understand that move. But I am going to tell you I'm also not going to fight City Hall here. I think that's what they're going to do. And until he proves that he's really a bomb, I think Mason Martin's probably going to stay in AAA.
People want Yoshi to hit bombs. He's been, like you said, more of just a bomb. But and like you said, we're just telling people what we think is going to happen. It's not necessarily what I would do.
It's for sure not what you would do. You would have cut Yoshi.
Yeah. I think we could have done this a month ago.
Yeah, right.
But I think 3-4 weeks ago, you started getting that little buildup of Mason Martin that everyone started thinking, okay, well, maybe he is a little closer and maybe that's not that far off. I think I even said that. But then he has cooled back down and things that used to be the concern have popped back up a little bit. And I think the Pirates threw a little bit of cold water on it for Mason Martin too, which the quotes were something to the extent of no, we think he's where he needs to be.
I agree, and I actually agree with the Pirates to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
I understand why they want him to be hot when he comes up. The thing that troubles me about Mason is, and I know he's 22 years old, so don't take this wrong, but he's not going to fix what people are concerned about. In my mind, he's got a 30+% strikeout rate. He's probably going to keep having a 30+% strikeout rate. I don't see him learning how all of a sudden to be a 20% guy.
No,
it's not going to happen.
No, he's the type of hitter he's always going to be. It's just to the degree of how good or bad on the spectrum he's going to be. You can slot him in as, whatever, big power guy, big swing and miss rate, and you just trying to get those down to an acceptable level to be a major league hitter.
He can be big, all that stuff, as long as he's not big country, because that's what we can't have is you can't have Big Country come up here and do that again. So
Right.
I think that's the biggest concern, is that he's going to wind up basically being a guy that comes up here and strikes out a ton and doesn't hit. To me, when you're a team this power starved, though, and you've got a guy that's showing you he's got that kind of power, man, bring him up here. Now's the time to do it. Let him come up here. Let him platoon. Let's see what happens with him. Let's see if maybe he can hit those 10, 14, 20 home runs here instead of down there.
Yeah.
It's not helping the organization for him to be providing the Indians fans with fun. I want him up here providing us with fun. Let us see some home runs.
Yeah.
Let's see what he can do here.
And he maybe is the right guy to pair with a Chavis, and for just the fact of the matter of, like, you could really pick your spots with Mason Martin and put him in good positions to be as successful as he can, which also helps Chavis, by the way, based on what he can do as far as, what they do as far as hitting lefty, righty, and whatnot.
You know what's really funny about that platoon idea? Chavis was the exact same hitter up until this season. Chavis had a terrible K rate. Chavis fixed a lot of things. He still doesn't draw walks.
No.
But he has fixed a lot of that strikeout problem that he had. And I think a lot of that is he's not letting himself get as deep into counts. He's going after
He's
balls.
very aggressive, which I happen to like.
Well, I like it too. But, okay, so we've talked about that a little bit. We have to talk about another subject that you and I both want to have an argument about.
Yeah, let's get the call. Right? We got the call your shot done. So now we can just get into a good old fashioned debate. Because this is something that, like, I threw out there and it got a big reaction.
Of course it did. You people get mad about that stuff because David Bednar's a hometown guy, right? And I'd love to say that it was an emotional thing, like, and that's why. No, people don't want to lose him because he's really good.
He's really fantastically good. Talented and
arguably the second best reliever in the league right now, right? Behind Clay Holmes.
Yeah. I look, right now, is there a more dominant pitcher in baseball than David Bednar?
Clay Holmes.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying.
That's it. So let's talk about it. Do the Pirates entertain trading him? Should they entertain trading him? I sure wouldn't.
Which is, and let me go back to what I threw out there on Twitter, which was something to the effect of, I love David Bednar. He's fantastic. I'd love for him to be a part of whatever's going to happen in Pittsburgh. He's a Pittsburgh guy. And but I also would listen on David Bednar because I don't think they're in a position yet not to listen for David Bednar.
Do you want me to do my whole thing where I always say, like, we listen on everybody and all
No,
that?
because we all know that. But,
it's
like,
nonsense.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So of course they're going to listen on everybody. I just think if David Bednar was a traditional closer,
right, because I think that was your response to me was like, we'll talk. This is going to be good to debate, and you see him as more than just that.
Yeah,
and I'm actually curious to hear your thoughts on that.
I don't think he has to be used in the back end. I don't think he cares where he gets used as long as he gets used. That's not everybody. That's not what every back of the bullpen type pitcher feels. That's not conducive to how they all perform.
Well, he's not a diva about it.
He's a rare bird.
Right. Well, he's from Pittsburgh, so
you can put him in whenever. You tell him, hey, I want you to get the hardest outs every night. That's not a guy that's going to get upset that he's not racking up save stats. He doesn't care.
No, he doesn't have an attitude about it.
That's why, to me, and he can go 2 innings if you want him to.
He can throw 50 pitches if you want him to.
Well, let's say Blake Cederland comes up after his arm troubles are all through. Let's hope they get all through. But Blake Cederland comes up here and he's a flamethrower too. And you got 2 guys like that in the back of that bullpen. that's a two-headed monster. That's the type of bullpen that you can ride for a while.
Right.
At this stage, when I'm plugging holes, man, I'm not looking to unplug them. I'm not looking to like create new ones right now. I want to like keep what we figured out. To me, David Bednar is that guy. And I know the old argument people love to make. Well, what do you need? What do you need a closer for when your team stinks? Well, if you trade the closer, all you're doing is guarantee the team's going to stink a little bit more for a little bit longer. And I don't think they grow on trees. And I don't think they're a dime a dozen. When you get a guy like that can give you that kind of consistent performance at this stage, I want a guy like that here to reward those young kids for putting them in a position to win. I don't want to go to nothing. And that's what it would be. Because if you trade David Bednar, I guarantee you Stratton's gone too. And then who do you got in the back end of that bullpen? Crow? Okay, but don't you like Crow where he's at? Like, don't you want Crow being able to pitch 3 innings?
Look, and here's the thing about this, and I do think there are valid points on both sides of it. And this is what I will say is, and you mentioned about keeping holes plugged. You're plugging a hole. What I would love to be able to do is organizationally maybe plug a bigger hole, which is with the starting pitching. And so I want to be clear to people, you don't get to do this on Twitter a lot because of the character limits. But I mean, look, when I talk about moving David Bednar, I talk about it in a very narrow sense. And it is finding starting pitching that's close to the major leagues. Like if that has to be the caveat, it's not for anything else. And
if this were last year, you'd be basically asking for Mackenzie Gore.
Yeah.
If this were last year.
Yeah,
right?
if this were last year. So like, and this is what got me starting. Ironically, it wasn't me thinking about it in David Bednar terms. It was looking at it organizationally and seeing what a Roansy Contreras does for you once every 5 days at the major league level, and when he's on the mound, you feel like the Pirates have a good chance to win a ball game. I want another one of those guys. And I hope it's Burrow, but I also know we need more of those guys. And God forbid,
we're allowed to pluralize Burrow here.
Oh, yes, right. You're right.
This isn't Cincinnati where we have to be all stuck up like, don't put an S on Burrow. No, this is a Burrows.
Yes.
So we can go ahead and.
I want multiple Burrows.
Yes.
So, and look, I know that's a narrow section to hit to shoot for. But that's what I want. I want another guy to pair with like a Roansy, and God forbid something happens to Contreras. God forbid it happens to Burrows.
That's exactly what I was just going to say.
People might be clamoring to move David Bednar because we need those guys. We have to have them soon.
That's what I was just going to say. It's not unfounded because like if Roansy Contreras were to, God forbid, have to have Tommy John surgery in 2024, screwed. You better hope that Quinn Priester comes up here and is an all-star.
You're right.
You better hope Michael Burrows comes up here. You better hope Jared Jones takes the jump. You need a guys like that to make major leaps to get up here and be ready.
Yeah. And so that's where it got me thinking. It was like, man, when Roansy is on the mound, I actually feel like even now with the Pirates, with all their deficiencies, they have a good chance of winning a ball game.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of started me down that road. Now, is that a hard thing to pull off? Absolutely. Teams may not be willing to give up that. And I'm talking top flight pitching.
Yeah.
And, the other argument people have made is, well, we have them under control till, what is it, 2026?
Yes.
I think.
Yeah.
And my line of thinking is with that is that's actually part of my argument for doing is because he's never, ever going to be more valuable than he is right now.
Well, let's touch on one more painful subject, because I don't want to do this either. But like, if we're going to open the door to things like that, let's open the door. All this outfield depth coming up. We're talking about not being able to pull up everybody.
Yeah.
We can't even get a look at Kanan Smith and Jigba. Forget Matthew Frazier. What about Matt Gorski? 19 home runs or something?
There's guys way down on the list.
But he's 24 years old. You know they're going to rocket him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is it maybe a little bit less laughable to think about trading Brian Reynolds now? No, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. And I think people will say, well, now you're just talking out of both sides of your mouth, because here I am talking about Bednar, I'll trade him, but I won't trade Reynolds. Well, I won't trade Reynolds because of the position he plays, as opposed to Bednar, who is a closer on a team that's just not quite ready yet to compete to the level of playoffs. So let me get that out there before people jump on me on Twitter about how can you say one about the other. I would not trade Reynolds. I am not that concerned about his start this year. I don't think you would trade him now anyway, because it'd be the worst time to do it. You know, like he's not hitting well. So, but what I will say is now we're talking about all these guys and the pecking order and the log jams that it's creating and will continue to create, hopefully. You know, my hope, and I brought this up even last year when we first started this thing, was maybe we get to the point where we can start to move some of those guys in a trade out.
Yeah.
You know, you can sweeten a deal.
I think they're going to have to.
You can sweeten a deal that way. If you're trying to get something back, where you can say, hey, you know, and you don't want to make the wrong call on guys.
No, but I mean, I think overall we're both saying the same thing here. Okay, yes, listen, I get we can have conversations like that. We're not calling for it as much as open to it.
Right.
But I think one thing that we probably need to think about, because this is really the first time we're ever going to experience it this year, the way they've changed the playoff structure. Dude, next year, like, if you're flirting with 500, guess what else you're flirting with?
The postseason.
So I'm not sure, like, I want to even consider not being ready to compete right now, because I think they'll be a 500 team next year.
Or close to it.
So
yeah,
maybe I'm not as okay with considering moving on from anybody like a David Bednar. You know?
It is. I mean, it is a tough call. Things are going to change in baseball big time.
Yeah, that's it. I wouldn't have traded Jacob Stallings. And I really like the return for him.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, have you seen Jacob Stallings' numbers?
I have.
Boy, has that been a rough go. I think he has a 1 home run and a OPS in the 500. So give Sherrington a little credit there too. So,
well, I mean, you know, you can always look back posthumously and think it was good. I still think we're really short on catcher depth because of it, but regardless,
it's fair.
The move, I think, is ultimately going to turn out good. And no matter what they do, I think that's the way you have to look at it. How did it end up turning out?
And he wanted some pitching.
And he got some pitching. So, you know, you can't roll it out. But hey, great talk for today. We're going to try to keep it tidy because this is a place of business. They actually have things to do here.
Yeah.
Plus,
they actually want to do business and get the vagrants out of the studio.
Yeah, and Eddie's broken his ankle, and he's like he's stumping around, like, trying not to trip over cords and stuff. I feel bad for him. So let's go ahead and end the show and say goodbye to everybody. How do people get a hold of you, Jim?
Yeah, so as always, guys, Twitter all the time, Pittsburgh all the time, Steelers, Pirates, Pitt, and Penguins.
Yep. Hey, Twitter the same, Gary MO2007. You can look me up on Facebook if you must. I don't necessarily care for it, but I'll go on there on occasion.
And we'll have to come back down here and do this again.
Yeah, we'll definitely come back down here and do it. That's the only way we're ever going to get Dejan. Let's just be honest.
That's true.
He's agreed to it, but I already know I'm going to have to come here
and glue him to a seat.
Yeah, or just sit in his kitchen and wait for him to wake up.
Right.
I don't know what's going to happen, but that's how it's going to play out.
Right.
So, Hey, without further ado, Ben, take it away, brother.
Let's go Bucs!